Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Val, and I am very excited to be bringing you a video as always. Unfortunately today it's taken quite a few takes to get the words out. It's just one of those days, I guess. I'm also testing out a new microphone, so hopefully the audio quality does my video justice. Before going into the video, I must just say that I'm not a medical or psychological professional. I'm only talking to you about my own personal opinions, my own personal experiences. Everyone out there varies, and what has worked for me may not always work for you. So if you want real advice, medical advice, psychological advice, please go to a trained professional. But without further ado, I wanted to talk to you about abstaining from addictions versus curing addictions. I believe that there's a very, very big difference. One kind of leaves you still in bondage, while the other one actually gives you freedom. I am not a huge fan of the 12-step model, as many of you may already know. I believe that they bestow upon you an identity that you can never outrun, you can never outgrow. You know, their old uh, adage is once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, or once an addict, always an addict. And I sit before you as a living testament to this not being the case. Okay, I was somebody that could not simply drink a drink for 10 plus years. Okay, for 10 plus years, I would have to drink myself into oblivion every single time I picked up a bottle of alcohol. All right, I sit before you today with that no longer being an issue. I'm actually able to moderate. If I say that I'm having one drink, then by God, I am going to have one drink, right? I do not slip back into this addictive behavior, and I don't have to drink ever, really, uh, unless I expressly choose that that is what I'm going to do that day. What is the difference between me and somebody who's sitting in those rooms? Well, I have completely separated myself from the identity of alcoholic, of addict. I no longer view myself as that. I see myself as an ex-alcoholic, as an ex-addict, right? And I prefer to see those things as states rather than permanent conditions. I prefer to say somebody has alcoholism or somebody has addiction versus somebody is an alcoholic or somebody is an addict, because that is really implying identity level issues that I just don't really believe in. Okay, and I'm not telling anybody out there to go out and have a drink if you have issues with drinking. I'm not telling anybody to go out there and use whatever substance is your favorite substance to use. But what I am saying is that there is a reason for these things. There's a reason that you're addicted to these things. And if you get to the root of that reason, the need, the urge to do the others will kind of to do those things will kind of fall away on its own, or to do them in excess will kind of fall away on its own. For many years, I didn't do the internal work. All I was doing was abstaining from alcohol. Alcohol was by far my biggest issue. But then, once I started to do the internal work, when I started to really analyze why I was using the alcohol in the first place and to address my trauma, I started to find out that the alcohol would just fall away on its own. So that was actually, one part of my sort of two-part formula. It's to do the internal work and do the internal analysis, but then to also build a life that is worth engaging in. Okay, get hobbies that you enjoy doing, build relationships that you enjoy engaging in, uh, build a structure that you don't mind waking up for in the morning, that you have something to live for. I feel that Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12-step program, they get it the opposite way. They get the abstinence thing down. They're like, oh no, you need to get sober. Okay, you need to get sober first and foremost. But then that's kind of where it stops. I feel like the focus is let's stop drinking, and somehow the focus still is drinking. Whereas in my model, my focus is to build the life that I want to live, a life that I want to engage in. And therefore, the drinking, the substance use, or the excessive drinking, the excessive substance use, the need to do these things kind of falls away on its own. And now, when I engage in a substance, I'm not looking for the substance to give me anything. Back in the day, I used to look to alcohol to give me confidence and to ease my social anxiety. Whereas now that I've done the internal work to build up my own confidence, to bring out my own internal confidence and lower and manage my own social anxiety, I no longer look to alcohol to provide me with those things, because there are parts of me, or I've recognized them as being parts of me. Confidence is now a part of me. I'm not looking to the substance to bestow it upon me. And once you get to that point, now you no longer need the alcohol. It's now an optional extra. Actually, alcohol tends to inhibit my confidence and my sociability nowadays, which is just ridiculous, because back then, I used to use it for exactly those things. But I find it kind of slows me down these days, and prevents me from being as, eloquent as I would normally be had I not drank the alcohol. And I think that's also super important, guys, is using substances in a healthy fashion, using them with the express intention of, I am going to experience this for the sake of experiencing it, not looking to something to give you anything, because then you can be attached to that thing. Because you're, especially also, if I say, for example, I drink alcohol to give me confidence, what is the subtext of that? At heart, what I'm saying is, I don't have my own confidence, and therefore I'm now outsourcing my confidence to this alcohol. That is not a healthy fashion to be using anything. Okay, even work, for example, there are people who are workaholics. If I'm using work to distract myself from the way that I'm feeling, perhaps somebody died recently. And now, instead of really sitting in mourning and really feeling my feelings, I go straight back to work, start distracting myself. Like, do not want to feel it, pushing it down, pushing the sadness down, pushing the grief down. Then that is an unhealthy way of doing work. Work inherently is not a problem. However, the way in which this person is using work is a problem. The intention behind what that person is using this for is an issue. It's an unhealthy thing. It's a distraction. And so, with the power of intention, you can start to look at the reasons as to why you are using any substance, whether those be real or false. And in a lot of cases, you can find that the reasons that you're using something are completely false. For example, when I was smoking, I used to tell myself, because also everybody tells you that smoking calms you down. But when you really look at what the smoking is doing to you, nicotine is a stimulant. Nicotine is actually making your heart rate higher. It's making your pulse quicken, you know? And it's actually just like it's it's jarring your system somewhat. It's doing the complete opposite of calming you down. So once you start to do that internal work as well, once you start to meditate and become aware of why you're using these substances, you may find that in a lot of cases, the reasons that you're using these substances are just complete lies that you've told yourself. Like, a lot of people will say, oh, I can drink this much coffee and it won't have an impact on me. I used to feel the same way. I used to drink, over 10 cups of coffee a day. When I started to meditate and get really into my meditation, eventually I started to notice what that caffeine was doing to my body. I started to feel the stiffness and tension in my face. I started to feel that increased heart rate. And guess what? I could no longer use that much caffeine, because I just became so aware of what it was doing to me, that it just stopped being logical for me to do it. So intention using substances with intention, really taking note of what that substance is doing to your body. Okay, and also at the very same time, not taking full radical accountability for your actions. If you're making choices that are not in your best interest, then take full ownership of the fact that you made those choices. Okay, and then from that platform, of a platform of not feeling any shame, because shame sort of comes from that feeling of lack of self-control. Even if it feels horrible, you tell yourself, this is my fault. I did this. I made this choice. And now you can start analyzing why you keep making those choices. That's what I did with pornography. Okay, there was a time where I was telling myself I had no control over my porn addiction or my porn use. And so what did I do? The one time I just let myself use porn. Rather than fighting it, I let myself use porn. But the entire time, I was analyzing and really looking at what it was doing to me, what I was telling myself that it was doing for me, and like really seeing a new angle of tackling this. You know, almost like meditating on my addictive behavior, becoming aware of what was going on. And through that awareness, I was finally able to transcend what was going on. And finally, guys, I think to cure your addiction, really, I'm not saying that there's not going to be any mishaps to this. I went through a lot of up and downs with my drinking, with other things. I went through a lot of up and downs. I do not believe in relapse. Okay, I believe there's regression. I believe you can go back to previous behaviors that no longer serve you, but I do not believe in relapse. Okay, I believe you must always believe that no matter how far you go down, you can always get yourself back up. If something brings you back, don't spin yourself this narrative, say that you have no control, that this wasn't in your power to stop. No, don't start making up all those narratives. Don't fall into that 12-step narrative of once I'm this, I'm always that. No. Always have the confidence that you're going to get yourself back uh, back on your feet. And have the same way of thinking for everything. With exercise, for example, there's been many a time where I drop off of exercising, but because I see myself as somebody who is a fitness guy, I see myself as somebody who exercises, I always get myself back. I'm not going to start calling myself names just because I dropped off of my schedule for a little bit. I have that confidence because it's a part of my identity that no matter what, I'm getting back to where I was. And I'm not only just going to get back to where I was, I'm going to overtake where I was and be even better and even more consistent. And that, guys, is a healthier manner of thinking. Just because you fall back doesn't mean anything. It's about how you get yourself up. So even if you have a small hitch, don't pay any attention to that hitch. Okay? Be aware of it, learn the lesson, but then come back. Don't shame yourself. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to leave it there. And yeah, as always, I really hope that somewhere out there, this video touches at least somebody and helps them with whatever they're going through. I'll see you in my next video. Much love. Cheers.